when I was preparing for Meta back in 2020. Um, so at the time, obviously, this course didn't exist. These my templates didn't exist. So what I ended up doing is I ended up watching a bunch of mock interviews on YouTube. So there's a channel for Exponent, and they publish these. I think they were like 30-minute mock interviews, 25-minute mock interviews. I knew they were kind of like an artificial environment, but what I got a lot of value out of doing is I would start the YouTube interview to the point where they asked the question, and then I would pause the video and I would start working through that question on my end, like literally on paper, like how would I tackle it? And then the moment I got to a point where I was kind of like, I really don't know where I would go from here, I would stop my own work and then I would kind of resume the video and I would see how the candidate in the video chose to start the interview and start comparing where I'd started and where they started and get to the point where I got stuck to see how they ended up kind of working through that part. And then once they kind of got through that part, I would then pause the video and then I would go back to kind of saying like, okay, with that part unblocked, how would I take it from here? Like if I got stuck on problems and I saw how they did problems, now I'm like, I would work through solutions on my own and then unpause the video after I do my solutions work to compare the approach. So that kind of allowed me to really identify the places that I was struggling and I needed some more practice. And now that we're in 2025 and you have my Copilot, what I would say, my intent of how you would use the Copilot is there's a few ways you would use it. I think the first one is to watch how um, someone using my frameworks who's internalized my frameworks would approach a similar question to the one you're working through or the exact question you're working through. So just to kind of broaden your perspective of another way of tackling that on your own without having to ask someone, without having to ask me, right? So that's one way to do it. The second way to use the Copilot is to work through my template and fill it out on your own, and then to export a PDF of the template that's filled out, and then to upload that into a new chat in the project for the Copilot, and to ask it to review your submission and give you feedback. And it's actually calibrated to do that. Will it do it as well as Brian and myself would? Probably not. But will it do it way better than you could on your own or with just like a random person? Yes. Um, and just like see if there's any truth to what it says, and if it pokes holes in some of your thinking or it critiques you in certain areas, you could follow up and ask like, oh, what would have been a different way to do that, or what would have been a stronger response in the section, and you could have a conversation with it, right? And then the third thing I would say you can do, and I need to actually give this a shake, but I've heard from some people that they've had some success with this with the Copilot, is that they'll work through my template, and let's say they want to practice delivery, like verbal fluency. So what they'll do is they'll actually open up a Google Doc or something else where they can actually start they'll literally use like Super Whisper or some kind of transcription app or even record a loom of themselves so they can get a transcript at the end and talk out loud through their submission like Brian was saying he did with his wife. So basically just like you have an audience which is a blank piece of paper or a loom, and your job is to just treat the loom or treat the piece of paper as if it was a captive audience that's listening to you, and just make sure you get all of your wording down on paper. And then you could take that basically that long paper that is your verbal transcript of your response, and then upload that into a new chat in the AI Copilot and ask it to give you feedback on your delivery, and any content that you shared. So I think those are some ways you could use the Copilot also to get more reps.